All right, so today I have been in the Philippines for more than a month, and I thought it would be a good time to talk about what my first thoughts were on here after coming back after 5 years. So I'm gonna go through those. I'm here at lunch today though. I'm in this place called the Messy Burger, and I wanna show you that and look at this very interesting burger. It has got cheese sauce and onions and this green like leprechaun bun. And all this was like, I think this was 109 pesos, so a little over $2. So what I'm gonna talk about in this video after I eat is basically my first 5 thoughts on the impressions of being here in the Philippines for a month. And I'll make an announcement at the end on here. And the last one that I'm gonna go over, the last 4th or 5th topic that I want to talk about is the big one. It's really a game changer if anybody's thinking about expatting in the Philippines or doing the digital nomad scene over here. What I have discovered is so different than 5 years ago, and I'll get to that at the end, but I'll do the first ones because they're much quicker, because that one's going to be a little lengthier. So hang on to the end if you want to hear about that one, because that'll be a little bit more in-depth conversation. So I guess a little bit about me in way of background, so this is kind of put into context. I'm originally from the United States, and I have been to the Philippines many times before. I'm actually married to a Filipina, have been for years, and I was a lawyer back in the United States. So we wanted to get back to the Philippines and come here for a year, and we were planning on doing that back in 2020. In May, and then in March, the entire world shut down. The Philippines also shut down and wouldn't allow people to come into the Philippines, and we decided that in 2021 we'd had enough. Even though the Philippines wasn't open, we were going to travel the world. So we went to Europe, spent time in Albania and Serbia, spent 5.5 months, almost 6 months in Thailand, and then finally the Philippines opened back up and we were in. So we came here looking at making a home base in Asia, whether it be in Thailand or whether it be in the Philippines. So that's my background of where I come from and how I'm coming at these impressions, not being my first time in the Philippines. But the big one, the big first impression that I have after being here a month is how stress-free it is. It is, in America, I was a trial lawyer, I also did immigration law, but everything was a battle all of the time. And here in the Philippines, it's just so laid back. There's so much less stress. It's not just because the attorney work that I still do is less stressful. It's just the environment. This place, it just makes you feel less stressed. And it bleeds away almost instantly after getting here. Show you around this little area that I'm in. Really kind of neat. So to expound upon that a little bit more, in the Philippines, the people here live for now. They live, they work so they can live. They don't live so they can go to work. They are focused on living life and enjoying life. And it's a completely different culture than what you see in the majority of the United States. It is. In the United States, everybody's rushing around all the time. They can't wait to get to retirement so they can be old and then they can go on vacation. To me, that's madness. And I discovered that was madness coming up on a decade ago now, and had been trying to figure out a way to vacation while I worked, which is what I'm doing. And I figured out a way to make that possible, and so that I could live my life and that my work would support my lifestyle and the life that I wanted to live. I don't want to get to the end of my life and be like, gee whiz, I wish I had worked more. I don't think that's going to happen. Nobody gets to the end of their life and says, gee whiz, I wish I had worked more. No, they wish they had done more life. They wish they had lived more. They wish they had spent more time with their family, quality time with their family, enjoying with their family. The one thing that I think of in my life, looking back upon it, is the memories. And the memories that I have traveling, the memories that I have of getting together at family reunions and spending time with family, those are the things that I think about. I don't think about, oh, this trial that I tried last year and how wonderful that was. Those aren't the memories that make me happy. It's the memories of traveling. It's the memory of family. Those are the things that I like. So I have designed this lifestyle so that I can live more life, much like the people here do in the Philippines. That's why I love it here so much, and some of these other countries that I've been to where they understand what is so important and what makes it stress-free is living for today, is living for making memories. All right, that went longer than I had planned on, so I'm sorry this video's gonna be really lengthy, guys. Second thing is that, and I knew this before, I've addressed it in one of my other videos, about how friendly the people are. But it's like there's no strangers here. I can go into a market and I can just start talking to someone and I can have a 30-minute conversation with a complete stranger and we can cut up and we can have a good time, and it's just, it is so amazing. And it's also some things I had forgotten about, just little quirks about the culture. I love the Philippines culture, but like, when I was here before, one time I was in a movie theater the very first time, and there's like, you know, there's like 500 seats or whatever in a movie theater. I was in the very back row, was the first one to get there, and I sit down, and then the next people come in and they sit down literally right beside me, and then the next group of people come in and sit down literally right in front of me. So there's like 10 people in the movie theater and we're all sitting right together in the very back, which is, in America, you would never see that. Everybody goes to opposite ends of the theater, so they don't have any contact. And so today, when I actually started this video back at the restaurant, it was so funny because we were the only ones in this restaurant that had multi-rooms in it and stuff. And we were in the very back of it, so I could film there. And another group of people came in, and despite having an entire restaurant to themselves, they came and sat down in the table right next to us. And then the next group that came in literally sat down on the table right in front. So everybody's all grouped together. And I don't have a problem with that. I just find it so funny because it's so opposite from the culture back home where nobody wants to be around each other. And here in the Philippines, you know, it's so communal, and it's just, like I say, it's so open that everybody just, you know, ends up together with each other. So just an interesting little quirk. All right, we're moving on to the next ones. So the Philippines is incredibly affordable. Now, I knew that coming in. I'd been here, you know, 2-3 weeks at a time before, but living here for this period of time, I wasn't aware of how affordable it can be. Thailand's very affordable. You get a lot of value for your money, but the amount of money that you can live on here in the Philippines is much less. And I'll just give you a for instance. On the place that I'm renting right now, I've got a 3-bedroom place in the province area, and I'm paying $140 a month for that. I can't imagine anywhere else that I could get a deal like that. Now, your average, you know, foreigner is not going to be able to come in here and get something of that magnitude, that inexpensive. And we had looked at about 3 different places. All of them were 3 or 4 bedrooms out in the province, and all of them were under $200. But that's not something I could have done on my own. I needed to have Filipino family that were able to go and find those deals for me. And one of the ways that it was able to be done is you have a lot of OFWs, overseas foreign workers, or you have people that live in Canada or live in the United States, and they've inherited a house that's here out in the province in the Philippines, and it's available, so it's empty. And that's not a good thing. You don't want a house to be empty because you can imagine what can happen with it. So you want someone in there living and taking care of it, so you can get really cheap rents. It's beneficial to the owner because they got somebody there to take care of the place if it springs a leak, to fix it so it doesn't get flooded. And it's beneficial to someone like me who can pay very, very low cost. So although the quality that I was getting in Thailand, and I'll put a link up here to a card to the place I was renting in Thailand, which was a 3-bedroom condominium, $600 a month, but that's still 6 times the amount of money of what I'm paying here. Still very low cost for you know, compared to the United States, and it was very nice. But think what you can do with all of that extra money. I mean, that's a trip going to Boracay or going up to Palawan. So you can really, really live more affordably here. I'll do a whole nother video on the different costs of living here. If anyone's interested in that, leave a comment below. I'll talk about that more. But I was shocked by living here and not just vacationing here, how much cheaper it was than I thought it could be, much more affordable. So. All right, so number 4 was I'm very, very, very impressed about how accessible things from the United States and from other Western countries, things that you would like to have that you can find in the Philippines. Now, I've spent the last year traveling all over the world. I've been in Eastern Europe, I've been in Thailand, I've been to the Middle East, and in each one of those countries, there are things that sometimes you cannot get that you would be able to get back in the United States. Food, different things that you would crave. And because the Philippines has such a large expat community from the United States, from Canada, and from other countries, there's kind of a cottage industry in some of the big towns that cater to being able to bring in those Western supplies. So just one kind of an example is I traveled the last year, and I'm from the southern United States, so I like nachos or chips, Tostitos and the con queso dips and stuff. Well, I didn't see that anywhere that I had traveled the entire time we were gone. And here I can find that. You know, most of the stores will have that at some different periods of time. Now, it's hit or miss on what days they'll be there. So for instance, the first time I got in Digos, went to the grocery store and I was like, oh my goodness, there's Tostitos, which are the chips, the corn chips, and the con queso dip, the cheese dip. So I bought that because I hadn't had it in a year. It was great. So the next time that I go a week later to the grocery store, they've got the dip, but they don't have any of the chips. And so I go to some of the other grocery stores. I even go to Davao. They don't have it. I go to the S&R in Davao, and I asked one of the guys, because I knew they had it before, and he's like, no, it's all stuck in Manila. We don't know when we'll be getting it again. So finally the chips come in the next week, or I think it was about 2 weeks later, and then, so I'm great. So I'm coming around the aisle, and I've got like 4 bags of the chips, because I'm not going to run out again. And my wife's looking and laughing at me when I was doing it. But there's no dip. There's no dipping sauce. And so that had disappeared for a couple weeks. So sometimes they had the chip, sometimes they had it. But the things are available, you just got to time it, and when it is there, you buy it so you've got it for later. And there's all kinds of other things like that. For instance, turkeys. You can go to the S&R in Davao and get you a 20-pound turkey for Thanksgiving if you want to. Those things wouldn't have been available in the other countries that I'd been to. So you may pay a little bit more money for it. You may have to do a little more hunting, but things that you're wanting if you are a Westerner coming to the Philippines, or if you're a Filipino and you just want to try those things, are available here. And I find that very convenient and very nice. All right, let's move on to the last one. All right, the last one, number 5, and the most important one, is the infrastructure and the results of really the build that's been going on in the last 5 years since I left, and it's amazing. So in Davao City, they have a brand new, that's still under construction, a coastal highway, which is amazing. There's going to be a bypass that's going to alleviate traffic going through Davao, make it less congested there. They spent a lot of money on that. The other things that they've got a train system for the first time. Mindanao is going to have a train system going basically from all the way through Davao down to General Santos. It will come through the Digos area where I had been staying. But the biggest thing, and this has been a game changer for me as far as making a final decision on what we're going to do, is the internet. So the last time I was here was in 2017, spent some considerable time here in 2016, and I was a lawyer in the United States. I was like communicating back with my offices there, making sure things that were trying to go smoothly, but the internet, it just was not up to par. So I could not have done a hearing, I could not have done a deposition. It would have been very difficult to run an office remotely from the Philippines, especially in the province area. You basically had to be in one of three major cities: Manila, Cebu, Davao, and then still it might be spotty unless you had some sort of fiber or some sort of long-term contract. When I'd come before, I tried to get hotspots, phones, working out of hotels, and it just was not feasible. And so you'll see a lot of videos on YouTube of digital nomads who come through the Philippines, and they just, for years and years and years, they say it couldn't work. Well, a lot has changed since then. So now, for instance, I've got fiber in the place that I'm staying right now, and it's 300 megabytes per second upload and download. Now we're not getting that. That's what the package is. It's usually hovering around 150, sometimes to 200, but still, that's enough to where you can run pretty much any sort of online business. If you need to do a video conference, a Zoom call, while somebody else in the next room is watching Netflix, somebody else in the next room is editing YouTube videos online through Adobe or something, you can do all of that. And that is a game changer. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the internet here in the Philippines is very expensive compared to a place like Thailand. So when I was in Thailand, I was getting 100 up, 100 down, so it was actually slower. There was higher available, but that was all I needed. And I was paying basically $15 a month. Here in the Philippines for that, I'm paying, I'll put it on the screen, I can't remember exactly. I'm thinking it's about $60, $65 a month, maybe 50 something, but it's around there. I'll put it on the screen. So it is more expensive, but it has been reliable. Also, I have gotten, right now I'm with Smart, but I've got what they call a Rocket card in my cell phone, and I get unlimited data, and it's 5G, and it works perfect. And the speeds that I'm getting on that phone are enough to run a business on by itself. So everything has changed, and especially that mobile, that you can do that in the Philippines. And for my purposes, that made the decision that I'm going to talk about here in a second much more plausible. Now, the one problem with the phones are, and I've got both Globe and Smart, is if you go out to an island location or to a beach, it's still going to be spotty in those cases. Sometimes it won't work. For instance, I went to Davao Occidental, down to a beach, and there was nothing. I mean, I was at a resort. There was absolutely, neither one of the phones would work on there. In some different locations. Sometimes Smart will work in one location, sometimes Globe will work, sometimes none of them will. But if you find a home base, a place that you're going to be staying, and you make sure whichever one's going to work in that location, or you're going to be long-term like I am going to be at this point, and you can get fiber, then it'll work. You can make the Philippines work. And because of all of these infrastructure improvements, which are huge, they weren't like this 5 years ago. And again, I don't know in the deep provinces far away from the major cities what it's like. But here, you know, I'm about an hour away outside Davao, and you can absolutely make it work. So that being said, the decision that we have made, so we are choosing the Philippines as our home base here in Thailand. And I'm going to be here basically for the rest of the year. There's other reasons behind that. So I'm thinking about doing a video about all of the reasons that we ended up choosing the Philippines as a home base and our home over Thailand. If that's something you'd like to see, you know, leave a comment below and tell me, or tell me what other kinds of content you'd like to see from this channel. If you like this, subscribe, really helps the channel grow, and then leave a like if you like it. If you don't like it, leave a dislike. I don't care, that's fine. All right, thanks guys. I will see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.